Hello and welcome to Our Space Lunch and Learn with TDAS.
TDAS is a registered charity that works in the Trafford area and supports families and individuals who have been impacted by domestic abuse. Our vision is to eradicate all forms of domestic abuse and enable people to break free from domestic abuse.
TDAS support adults and young people, and on our children and young people's side of the service, we offer one-to-one support, group work, refuge support, and workshops on healthy relationships, as well as domestic abuse awareness and teachers training. We often engage with parents, with children of parents who are engaging with us to challenge and change harmful behaviours. We have a YIPVA support service, which is a young person's violence advocate for young people who are in their own relationships that may be high risk.
Also, as part of our CYP service, we have CYP staff who work in our accommodation and support children who come into accommodation after fleeing domestic abuse with their families.
Today we want to talk about Our Space. Our Space is for children living or going to school in the Trafford or Salford areas. It caters for children and young people between the ages of 5 and 14. The groups are divided by ages: 5 to 7s, 8 to 11s, and 12 to 14s. And each group has no more participants than 10. The main purpose of the Our Space group is for young people to make friends and share experiences with other young people who have had the same experiences as them. It is a peer support group, it's child-led, and it's basically play-centred, even though each week Our Space is focused on a particular theme. The young people and children that attend Our Space find comfort in knowing that they are in a group sharing an experience, even if we don't always talk about that experience. We as facilitators are mindful to not re-traumatize the young people by asking for their particular experiences, but the environment is set up so that if they want to and comfortable to do so, they can.
So the areas covered in the sessions of Our Space, one of the first sessions we do is what is domestic abuse. We're very mindful to use child-friendly language and use words like hurting and hurting in the home. This session's aimed at giving some knowledge to children and taking away the fear of words that they may have heard but not necessarily understand. This also session is about building healthy relationships and helping young children particularly, to understand what is okay and what isn't okay in a relationship. The next lot of sessions that we sort of do with children are aimed around family and relationships. So we look at rebuilding those relationships with the non-abusing parent and recognising roles that people play in families. This builds up children's confidence in knowing what they're supposed to be doing and what they're not supposed to be doing within that family dynamic. Our feelings and worries session is aimed at building up emotional literacy and aids to help children to express and identify their feelings and their worries. Some children can't necessarily give their feelings and worries to people verbally, so this session's about getting them to express that in various different ways. Our self-esteem session looks at building up children's confidence in their own abilities and just in themselves in normal everyday tasks. Our anger session builds up techniques like coping strategies, like breathing techniques and grounding techniques, and teaches children how to regulate their emotions, particularly after fleeing a domestic abuse situation. Our safety planning session helps young people identify what safe spaces there are for them, where safe people are, who they can trust and talk to, and also help them to build some emotional safety. Responsibilities runs right the way through the programme, and it's about helping children to recognise that they are not responsible for the actions of others. This is one of our older versions of a booklet, but each week the children get a booklet, and in that they're able to document information about themselves, particularly if they don't want to say it out loud, that they can actually document and write it down or draw us pictures. They're able to rate the session, so they can tell us what they did like, what they didn't like, what parts of the session they found really exciting, what parts they found boring. And believe you me, they do tell us that, what parts they found boring. Also, they're able to communicate with the facilitators in a safe way. They can leave notes and drawings to express what they're feeling or what their fears and worries may be. And then the facilitators can use the booklet as well to write back to them, so they don't actually have to say that out loud to people. At the end of each booklet, there is a safety plan that the facilitators in the safety planning session help them to fill in, so the children learn to have some sort of measure of confidence and begin to build confidence in their own abilities to help themselves be safe as well.
So next, we're going to have a little look at things to consider when making a CYP referral. So our forms list the different types of support available. So please be sure to tick the right box for the support that you are referring for at that time. Currently, we're using our space groups to cut down our waiting list so that children are not waiting for a long time for one-to-one support, and they're invited to the groups to socialise with others, and they can also be triaged under that environment. Referrals are initially triaged by the CYP team leader. Please follow all guidance given and complete all the relevant sections. And if you do struggle to complete any of the sections, questions can be sent to our admin. The address will be given at the end. For young people aged 13 or over, if they're in their own relationships, a young person's DASH risk assessment may need to be completed. If you can't speak directly to the child, describe the child or young person's behaviours, observe their interactions, and provide context of what the concerns are. So instead of writing, how they're behaving, what has happened to this young person, why they might be acting in this way, please include views of important figures in the child's life, and any sort of challenges or barriers to being involved in a group setting that might come up for the young person, just so they can be triaged into the correct area of support. So on our CYP referral form, we have two very important boxes that need to be filled out. The first is the brief overview of why you are referring into our service. We really need this to be as concise as possible, as we need to make sure that the support we are offering is the correct support. And next is the voice of the child, which is not always going to be a soundbite from the child. It might be something observed, especially with younger children. It might be a behaviour observed by a professional. So the voice of the child also can be collected in a creative way. If this is done by a support person who has maybe done some work with a child, you may see something in a piece of art or a conversation or a behaviour that can be put underneath the voice of the child. We want you to consider socially if they may be distant or they may disengage, if they may become aggressive toward, in a school setting, because this really helps us to understand how they might settle or not into our space groups. We also want you to consider intellectually if the child has any challenges that we can possibly cater for.
Okay, so the way to contact us, and please make a note of the details for future reference, is our telephone number is 0161 872 7368. Our email is admin@tdas.org.uk. We are no longer on Twitter, so other ways to contact us is @Team TDAS and @tdas.org. some other lunch and learns that we do and some other domestic abuse training. So we have quite a few different lunch and learns, both aimed at young people and adults. And they're short bites of training and information just given to anyone who is particularly interested in that part of subject. And you can just join on to those. Other trainings, we have quite a few that are just a little bit longer and a little bit more intensive.
So thank you for joining our Lunch and Learn today. Please get in touch if you have any questions, queries or concerns. And please, if the link is working, click on the link and fill out a survey. Thanks very much for coming.